All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is going to be our first live podcast between myself and my partner, Houston. We're shooting here live at the local 480 studio in Phoenix, Arizona. Traveled out here for some work and to do stuff like this. So thanks for joining us. Like I said, my name is Ryan Schroep.
My name is Houston Baquet.
And we're just going to talk a little bit today about what we do, what our business looks like, how we got to where we are, how we make mistakes every day, figuring things out. So thanks for joining us, and I just want to start this out, Houston, by just asking you, I've heard a lot about your story from where you were 10 years ago to where you were now. Maybe just share a little bit about, the mistakes that you've made, the things that you've learned, and what was happening 10 years versus now, so that everybody gets a better idea of, where you came from and how we got here.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I would say so just for anybody that doesn't know, I actually got started in real estate about 10 years ago. I attempted to get started in real estate about 10 years ago. Bought my first course. I invested a whole bunch of money into direct mail marketing, spent about $6,000 or $7,000, and launched all of those mail pieces out in 1 week. And so the incoming calls were insane, and it's pretty much melted my phone. Wasn't able to capitalize on any of that because I just didn't have any systems in place to track anything. I didn't know who to bring it to, even if it was a deal. And so that was kind of my first foray into real estate. And then every other year until now, I've done essentially the same thing. Dived into a course, dived into a program, spent a bunch of money, and just really didn't get the results that I wanted to. I would say the main reason that I didn't get those results, and the main thing that I did differently now, is actually getting around people that were doing the deals. So association is definitely the most important thing I would recommend to anybody looking to start, is get around people that are doing deals, actively doing deals. And for me, it was a game changer. I had somebody as like a soundboard that I could just bounce my ideas off of, and it really took my ability from here all the way to here. And so association, definitely the one thing that's brought me to no deals to deals.
Awesome. Yeah, so what made you pay for courses and things like that? Like, why did you think that was the right thing to do?
I've always known that real estate was the way to go, and as most of us do, we go through all different kinds of schooling. I went to college for 9 years. I went to university for 4. So I'm just in the mindset of, hey, you want to learn something? Well, you pay somebody to teach you it, whether it's in school or a mentorship. And so I've never been afraid to kind of invest in myself and my future. And I was just kind of, I don't want to say conned into it, but it's a lot of hype in these mentorships and these programs and these courses, and not a lot of actual delivery. And so for me, I just thought that I was one course away, one class away, one person away from making that first deal, and I knew it was all going to be worth it. Real estate, that's where the majority of millionaires are made. I think it's about 80% of the millionaires in the United States are actually made in real estate. And so I always knew that I wanted to go there eventually. And like I said, I was willing to invest in myself to get there.
Gotcha, man. So, you're talking about the things that have changed with those courses and where we are now. So what the heck do you do now? I mean, what are you doing now to make money? Are you making any money?
Great question. On paper, we're doing really well. So right now, all I do is on-market acquisitions for any kind of creative deal. We focus on sub two transactions.
Okay. What does that mean? Creative deal, sub 2. What does that mean?
Let's break that down. So I focus on real estate transactions, residential transactions, I should say. So just a single family home that, for whatever reason, they're on the market and their equity is low enough for them to either A, not walk away with any money, or B, actually lose money on the sale of their home if they were going to sell traditionally. So we found that if we can come in and actually hold on to those lower interest rate mortgages that those sellers have, it's a really great benefit for us because, as you know, the market's kind of, gone down and the rates have gone up. So for us to get into rentals and for them to be cash flow, best way to do it is to pick up a home subject to. And subject to, all that is essentially keeping that mortgage in place and deeding the title over to us. So we become the new owners, but we get to benefit off of that good debt that the seller had.
Gotcha. Okay, so you talk about subject to. It sounds like you're basically just taking somebody's house. Is that kind of a scam, or how's this working?
Well, that's actually a great question. First time I actually heard about this, I was afraid, and I actually told the seller that, because she had approached me and said that other investors were, coming at her with subject to offers. And as someone who only had a hammer in the tool belt, my cash offer, I didn't know what that meant. And she explained it to me just like you did. Hey, are you just taking over my home? And so to me, I was like, holy cow, that seems like a scam. Well, fast forward a couple of years, and I actually joined a mentorship. That's all they do. They just focus on creative transactions, and specifically sub-2 transactions. And I was able to find that there's a lot of benefits to the seller in selling to somebody like me, subject to. For instance, like I just mentioned, if they're underwater, if they're, getting close to that point where they're not going to make money or they're going to lose money on a normal sale, well, I can come in and I can cash out whatever equity they have and, turn that into a performing note for them. It builds their credit over time, as well as, I get a performing asset.
Cool. Yeah. So just going a little bit deeper on that. So you talk about, the courses that you've bought in the past and then the mentorship you're in now. And obviously, for those of you who don't know, Houston and I met through the mentorship that we're in now. It's called Sub2. It's a mentorship with Pace Morby, and that's how I've met Houston and also a lot of my closest friends in real estate now. So, being in a mentorship has allowed us, I think, to just see what other people are doing and really just emulate what they're doing. One of the hardest things getting started is just trying to figure out, what the heck am I supposed to be doing? What's my next best step? But something that we've really been taught and something that we have learned and tried to emulate is that when other people are doing something well, we don't have to come up with our own thing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just look at what they're doing and figure out how it fits into our life and what we're doing and just try and copy it. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm definitely not the smartest person out there, right? So I'm not coming up with my own ideas that are going to change the world necessarily. But if I can just execute and be consistent, then I know that good things are going to happen. So that's a little bit about where we're at right now. What does the business actually look like? Like, let's just go on a deep dive of a breakdown of what do you and I do together? What does our business look like? How are we actively helping people right now?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. So right now, as a real estate business, what we do is we are actively acquiring properties. So we're out there prospecting, and I specifically deal with direct-to-agent properties. So that means that it's actually on market. There's an agent involved, and they're representing the seller. What I'm doing is I'm trying to build a portfolio of cash-flowing properties. And so for me, the best way to do that, like I mentioned, is to get lower rate mortgages. So what I do is I actually go on market, I talk to agents all day long and try to turn them into my friend. I work on the relationship, tell them what I have to offer, and see if there's any opportunities that they have, currently. It's a lot of times it's actually educating the agents on the process, because subject to transactions aren't very common. We actually, just this year, we've got about 10 properties under contract right now where we're going to be purchasing them subject to. But before that, the market didn't allow for it. It'd be one here, one there, but right now it's just where we're heading. So our business model, what it looks like is, hey, I'm going out there prospecting for leads. I'm cold calling these leads. I'm then converting these leads. And from there, I underwrite them, make sure that it's a good deal. And what that looks like is just essentially running rental comps, making sure that our mortgage would cash flow. and figuring out any other expenses like HOA or property taxes that might throw a wrench in any of that. It's when I say like that, it sounds simple, but there's a whole lot of moving parts, in each individual step of the way. But hey, if it doesn't fit, then we can pass it on to somebody else as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's just break down our vision a little bit. So when we're calling these agents, talking to sellers, whatever it may be, I think you and I both approach it in a way where we're really just trying to solve problems. Mm-hmm. And so when we, for people that haven't spoken to an agent before, or are nervous about trying to figure out how to get into this, I think one of the biggest things for us is that we're not calling these people and telling them what to do, but we really hammer home that we're just calling these people and then we just shut up and listen. Mm-hmm. And we just listen to what their problem is, and then we try and diagnose it. And I come from an engineering background where basically my whole job is to solve problems. And that's what we're doing. We're just sitting and trying to solve a problem, because the reality is what makes a deal a sub-2 deal is not the same for everything. But in the same sense, not everything is a sub-2 deal. Mm-hmm. And so when we call somebody, we don't just call them and say, hey, are you willing to just hand over your house to us? Right? That's just going to get people to laugh at us, people to push us away or not want to even have a conversation. So instead, what our team does is our approach is to just listen to them and understand, do they have time to sell this on the market? Are they underwater on their mortgage? Like, what's the situation? And when we listen to that, oftentimes Houston and I will listen to that and we'll say, hey, I think you may have a better option if you do this, or you talk to this person, or you change your price to this, whatever it may be. And we'll just kind of try and offer, whatever our experience has been, any of our knowledge that we can to that person. Because at the end of the day, when we are doing these transactions, it's a very personal thing. We're working with these people for a while, especially if we take over their loan. And so we want everybody to be not only on the same page, but happy, right? Mm-hmm. We want people to be excited about selling their deals to us or selling their deals to other people. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a big thing to note, is that when we're taking these properties over, we're finding the ones that need our help and not the other way around. We're not trying to force help on anybody. But when it comes to the acquisition process, our process is really, our first phone call is to just talk to them and listen, mm-hmm. right? That's what we preach to our team, is just call them and then listen to what's going on, take notes, understand, and then break it down from there. So, depending on how that first phone call goes, are they looking for an offer from us? Are they content with where they are? Do they have plenty of time? And we take that into consideration and break it down into whether or not it's either a cold, a warm, or a hot lead, right? And when we do that, what it allows us to do is it allows us to focus on the most important leads, the people that need our help the quickest, mm-hmm. And to take those leads, and then we just follow up with them and say, hey, how can we make an offer that's going to be beneficial to you? And one of the coolest things about creative finance is that we're able to be so creative with our offers. Oh, yeah. Right? So we don't just say, a typical offer would be, hey, I'll pay you $300,000 for your house. We can do whatever we want because we're just so creative with these offers. So we can call them and say, hey, we'll pay for the moving company to help you guys move into your next house. We'll pay for your first month's rent. Like, whatever that thing is, we're able to do it because we're getting creative with these deals to not just give them a number, but to actually dig deeper and figure out how to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And once we're able to do that, our mentor, Pace Morby, he always talks about finding the bunnies, right? Finding the bunnies is a long story that I won't get into, but the point of it is that you're finding the pain points, you're finding the problems so that you can solve those first. Because when we find their actual problem, we don't have to go roundabout for an hour trying to figure out what's going on or offering them things that they don't care about. Mm-hmm. Some people need money, some people need time, some people just need advice. Like, mm-hmm. it really just depends. Mm-hmm. So our acquisition model is to just listen to those things and then make an offer that responds positively to all the things that they're asking for. And like Houston mentioned, we have a lot of deals under contract right now for people, and every single one of them has a different story, but the underlying factor is that they all needed help solving their problems. Mm-hmm. And the coolest part about what we do is that we're able to come in and do exactly that. We're able to solve their problems. And so we love being able to do that, and that's kind of just a breakdown of our acquisition model that we've been following. So, with that being said, with where we're at now and with where you see us going, like, maybe just share a little bit more about what you see, next 3 months, 6 months, a year with our team.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I'm really excited for what's to come. I've got so much. Oh my gosh, I've got so much excitement for everything that's to come because this is the fastest growth, the fastest momentum I've ever seen in my life. And I keep using the analogy. I feel like I'm in a Ferrari, but I'm actually just hanging on to the side of it, not in the driver's seat, and it's going down the freeway, going down the Autobahn as fast as possible. And so I'm just trying to stay clinging on to it and stay alive, really. But I mean, at the end of the day, next 3 months, it's hard to say because 3 months ago I was in a completely different place than I will be in 3 months from now. So 3 months ago, just for those that don't know, I was closing my first real estate deal. And now, fast forward 3 months, we've got like almost $5 million in escrow right now. So it's grown insanely fast. And so I see in another 3 months, I see that 3xing. So I imagine us having around $15 million in escrow. Buying properties pretty much anywhere we want, mostly in Florida, Texas, and Arizona. I think those are the main markets that we want to stick in. And then kind of transitioning into a midterm, short-term rental market. I think that the cash flow is pretty amazing when it comes down to that. And, active income's great, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think cash flow is king. And I want to get to the point where, I'm making enough passively where we can go to the beach, go surfing if you want. We can go to the river and go kayak down the river. Whatever we want to do, we can actually enjoy those freedoms that we're working so hard to create. And so for me, in 3 months, I envision my life being a whole lot less stressful and a whole lot more productive.
Right. Yeah, and I want to break down some of that a little further. So you mentioned short-term rentals and mid-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who don't know what that means, let's break both of those down. Most people have heard about Airbnb, right? And so Airbnb generally is thought of as short-term rental, which usually just means less than 30 days stay. And the way that we're able to use Airbnbs is, right now, if we were to take a house and just try and rent it out, as a long-term rental, which would be just a traditional rental with a lease. It's really hard to make any money off of that because rents have kind of flattened out or stayed the same as housing prices have continued to go up. Rates obviously have continued to go up. We can kind of work around that one. But it makes it a lot harder. And so with the short-term rentals, we kind of juice that up a little bit. It's a lot more work, right? We have to clean it constantly. We have to babysit people oftentimes and deal with a bunch of more issues. But we also make more money doing it. And so that's the short-term rental model. And then the midterm rental model is an interesting one. It's kind of become a little bit more popular now. And it's a little bit less specific, right? So the midterm rental model is really, you can rent out to travel nurses, which is really popular right now. You can rent out to travel nurses for 2-3 months at a time that are traveling around to different hospitals. We also work with insurance companies, right? That, whether somebody gets displaced from a fire at their house or a flood or whatever may be going on, the insurance company has to find somewhere for them to stay. And so that's kind of what our midterm and short-term rental models look like in our business. And I love what Houston said. What we really shoot for as we get into the next month, into the next 3 months, is definitely less stress. But at the same time, it's really just leveling up our problems. And we talk about it all the time. The way that we know that we're growing is that we're leveling up our problems, not that we're eliminating them. Because we're never going to eliminate our problems if we want to grow at the pace that we plan on doing. Because there's so much going on. There's so much that we're still learning. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. But with that being said, we can also have our small problems turn into bigger problems. So for example, instead of us talking about what software we use, right? Or what web browser we're using or whatever, these are small things. It's bigger things like, how are we going to raise $500,000 or $1 million? How are we going to, buy 10 houses in 1 month? Like these are the problems that we're trying to level ourselves up into to actually push ourselves to continue to grow. Because, a big thing for us is that we don't want to be comfortable. No. If we're comfortable, we know that we're not growing.
No.
And, the amount of time and effort that we've put into this, it would just be letting ourselves down, letting the people on our team down, if we're not constantly uncomfortable so that we can grow and figure this stuff out along the way. So I think that's one of the most exciting things about our business right now. But do you have anything else in this first kind of little podcast episode that we're shooting here that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think that our goals, they line up pretty similarly for the 3 to 6 months, so I don't think we're going to need to go over that again. But I guess one thing I wanted to ask, especially, because you are my partner, I wanted to see, how do you imagine us leveraging new resources, new ideas? How are we going to get to a place where there's less stress? Because like you said, I'm not trying to eliminate the problems. By no means. In fact, I'm in a place right now where I feel the most alive I've ever felt. I really, really love waking up and tackling these high-level problems. It's amazing. And I want to keep leveling that up and keep leveling that up. But there's only so many hours in the day. You know this, I know this, Pace Morby knows this. Even though that guy wakes up at 3 in the morning and goes to sleep at midnight, there's still only so many hours in the day. And so what do you imagine us implementing in order to leverage our time, or how do you imagine us getting to the point where we're continuously increasing the level of problems that we're dealing with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our main thing right now is just figuring out delegation. So, one of the big things in business is that we tend to convince ourselves that we're going to be the best person to do whatever it is, right? So, whether it's something as dumb as just pulling leads to call, to cold call, or closing deals or raising money, whatever the thing is, we convince ourselves we're the best at it, when in reality, at least in my opinion about myself, I'm probably not the best at any of those things. But we tell ourselves we are, just because it feels like, we did it first and we know exactly what we want. But the way that Houston and I plan on expanding and reaching these new goals is delegating. So we have to constantly, every day, every week, look at our business and figure out, what are the most important things? What are the most high-level things that we can be doing to help our team? And then what are the things that we can hand off? And when we hand something off, it's not because we necessarily don't want to do it or it's not the best thing to do, but it's that we want to be able to elevate the people around us to be able to do those things. So as we continue to grow, the way that we plan on taking advantage of our opportunities is continuing to delegate these tasks so that the people around us can learn new things and try new things just like we did, and we can kind of mentor them and bring them up in that. But at the same time, instead of, spending 10 hours a day writing contracts like I am right now, I can pass that off, and then when somebody reaches out with a new opportunity, I can spend the time to really develop and learn and grow in that new opportunity, so that we can not only grow in our business, but continue to make more opportunities for other people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I guess the last question I have then is, what are you most excited for? Because I feel like that's a great thing that people always want to know. They always ask me, oh, hey, what do you have coming next? Or what are you, but I guess really, what are you most excited for? Because this has been a complete change of pace for both of us. But, people want to know, what is it that drives you today?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that I'm most excited for is just having an impact on people. In my last job, I spent most of my days behind a desk, kind of talking to the same 3 or 4 people. And now we've transitioned into something where not only are we talking to 100 people a day, but we also have the opportunities to go speak on stages, to post videos like this, where we can talk to more people. And we also have the opportunity to just share what we're learning, right? And that's what I love so much, that I'm most excited about, is using the resources that we have learned and been given and helping other people with them, whether it's monetarily, being able to make more money and do more with it, whether it's my time, again, being able to delegate so that I can use my time to serve and help other people, or whether it's just the knowledge that we've gained through the ton of mistakes that we've made. We want to be able to share all of those things with other people, and the thing that gets me most excited isn't necessarily doing the actual work, but instead it's doing the work so that I can take those experiences and share them with other people. And that gets me most excited for sure, every day.
Oh, I totally agree. Speaking of sharing, where can people find you? If where are you going to share this? Where can people follow your journey?
Yeah, so hopefully you guys are seeing this on my YouTube channel. We are working on getting that started and posting more content about everything that we're learning. You can also check me out on my Instagram at Schroep_321. We'll put that down below. So please make sure you check me out there. And what about you, Houston?
So on Facebook, on YouTube, you can find me as Houston Bequet. My last name is Becquet. And on my Instagram, it's just house4 Houston. And I'm trying to post as much as possible. Definitely understanding the value of content much more now, and becoming much more of a creator instead of just a consumer. I don't think there's anything wrong with consuming, but consume in moderation and take excessive action. That's my new motto.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this. Hopefully we were helpful to you. Hopefully you learned maybe a little bit more about what Houston and I are doing all day when we're sitting in the dark in our offices and our rooms and not talking to anybody. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, appreciate it. We are live here at the Studio 480 in Phoenix, Arizona. This will probably be one of our rare live interviews as I fly back to Florida here at the end of the week. But we appreciate your time, and until next time.
All right, peace out. Thanks, guys.